Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Hello, my name is Seyi and this is my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My goal here is to help you look good and feel seen. Okay, you already know if I'm sitting on this couch that I have something to say. I'm talking. I have always been the single friend. At one point, it was getting to me deeply. It just felt like I was not being chosen, let's just be honest. And it felt like I just wasn't worthy of love or attention from a man. I have seen many of friends get into relationships, get out of relationships, get into relationships again, get engaged, get married, have kids, and then there's me. Just standing here like, and as somebody who grew up with like low self-esteem, not for any reason outside of just like, I think I got like picked on here and there, nothing excessive, but I think just internally I just had low self-esteem. I didn't like the way I presented myself. A lot of times I didn't like showing up, or I didn't like maximizing myself. I always tried to minimize myself. I felt like my insecurities and my feelings of insecurities robbed me of the opportunity to really like show up as my true self, which at one point I equated to that robbing me of the opportunity to meet like the man of my dreams. And this is not to say I haven't had any situations. I have. The last one was literally like over 10 years ago. So do any of those count? No, they don't. I remember when the last situation ended, I told myself, I was like, God, the next man needs to be my husband. And God said, bet. Don't you worry, my child. I got you. You know, I used to always think, I was like, God, why me? Like, why am I the person that has to be the one that, you know, isn't getting these things? Why do I always have to be the bystander and never like the protagonist in these situations? I always felt like I was like supporting characters in all these experiences with the people around me, but never actually the main character when it came to finding love or being in love. And I can't really speak to what it's like to be in love. I think I've been infatuated, but I was like, God, I want to know what it's like to be in love. Like, just let me have the experience. And then one day I literally prayed to God. I was like, God, you know what? I have been thinking about this a lot and I'm kind of getting tired of thinking about it. I was like, I'm kind of getting tired of always thinking about when is it going to be me? When is it going to be me? And I'm also tired of like kind of low key making decisions on this idea that I will eventually find the man of my dreams and we'll live happily ever after. And then I'll have my kids and I will have reached the final level of life. Like, I'm married, I have kids, I'm in my house and I'm good. I was like, I'm tired. So how about this? I was like, you know, if this is not your plan for me right now, wherever, let's go ahead and release that desire. I remember praying that prayer and I was like, dang girl, you really meant that, huh? Sure, I can admit the prayer came kind of out of a little bit of frustration because I was just like, God, I'm tired of this. Like, I'm tired of this. I don't want to deal with this anymore. But then I think the other part felt kind of like more of my truth of just being like, you know what? Kind of getting to this state of acceptance of what it may mean for me to be in this point of my life. And I did an Instagram video where I shared about basically being single and not classifying me being single as like a season, because I do genuinely feel, especially as a woman of like the Christian faith, that we categorize these things as seasons. Like, you're in your single season and then you're going to be married. But I was saying in that post, I'm like, nobody says they're in their marriage season. If you get divorced, nobody says they're in their divorce era. I think a lot of times we place singleness on this kind of spectrum of like single, married, hopefully you stay married, but if you get divorced, divorce. You know, we place it on this kind of line where it's almost like, you know, you're getting to the next level. And not even a line, because a line kind of implies that they're all on the same level playing field. But if we're being honest, people look at being single as like here, married or partnered is here. They look at it as above. And so a lot of times I was just like, I don't want to look at being single as just this like, one, lower tier, and two, this stage I'm in, just, you know, I'm just sitting in this stage in order to reach the next stage. Like, that's not how I want to view life in general. But I don't want to view my life in stages and thinking like, okay, now this is this season. I was just like, I'm just a single person. Just like people are married, just like people are parents, like, you're just that. It's not a denotation of like where you're gonna go next. You're just that person, you know? It's funny because before I shared that post, I was planning to not share that post. I had a whole different voiceover for it. I felt God being like, it feels like you're kind of skirting around the topic, you're beating around the bush, say what you really want to say and say it with your chest. And I was just like, oh, okay. Okay, excuse me. And so I changed it last minute and I decided to do the voiceover that I did. And so far it's been one of my most like popular, I guess, videos. It's so interesting because seeing all the comments is heartwarming, and also sometimes a little sad because I see people commenting kind of like their deep desire, but then I see other people saying like, this resonated so much, thank you for sharing this. And I think that a lot of us don't talk about it because we almost feel like it's taboo to be like, I've never been in a relationship. And I am 33. I've never been in a fully committed relationship. At a point I felt ashamed. I felt like, is something wrong with me? Like, am I doing something wrong? But the more I spoke to people and kind of like even sharing online, which is one of those things where I used to be like, no, I'm not sharing that part of my life online because nobody needs to be in my business like that and nobody needs to know. And I think a lot of it stemmed from not wanting men to view me as like this like cherub, until I was like, but why does it matter? Like, if you're in this state of trying to just navigate your life the way you want to navigate it, then why are you stopping yourself from talking about something that is pertinent to your life in this moment? And I felt the urge to talk about this now just because I do feel like there has been this sort of shift in the atmosphere and a lot of heavy emphasis being placed on being partnered and being married. And I get it. Like, emotionally, mentally, having that kind of connection can be healing if it's a good connection. Something in me was just like, you need to talk about this and be open with it, and it's not something to be ashamed of. And so once I got over the feeling of shame, I felt much more comfortable sharing this with that video and now with this video. If anything, I've had the opportunity to sit with myself and learn things that I really genuinely like, things that I genuinely dislike, what my desires are, what my wants are, what my needs are, differentiating between the wants and needs, thinking about what's really important, thinking about things that are not really that important, being able to form my own opinions and my own thoughts on things without somebody else in my ear kind of giving me their own opinion and their own thoughts. I get to be selfish. The other day I was on a walk and I was just thinking like, having your time to yourself is such a blessing. When I chose to not look at being single as like this negative and reframed it in this positive light of just like looking at how I've been able to approach the world, I'm actually grateful. I can't imagine having been in a relationship during these like pivotal seasons of my life because I really don't know how that would have worked out when I really think about it. Like, I really don't know. And I don't think it would have worked out because there is so much pruning and shedding and adjusting that I've had to do in order to come to this version of myself that I really love. Like, I love this version of who I am, and I don't think this version of who I am would have been possible if I did not give myself the opportunity to be okay with being single. I do think it's easy to get into relationships. I think you can easily get into any relationship. If you really, really want something, you can easily just hop into it. Like, it's not hard, but if you just really, really want it, you can figure out a way to get into any relationship. I think what's hard is choosing to not, because you're just like, that's not what I want. I don't want just any relationship. Who we're connected to really does have an impact on how we show up in the world. My singlehood has proven to be a beautiful experience that has opened my eyes so much. I've gotten to understand myself better. I've gotten to deepen my friendships, which is something that is really important to me, because if I do ever get into partnership, I want to know that my friendships are solid. Regardless of time, space, we have an established, rooted bond that cannot necessarily be broken or shaken too easily just because life has taken us different directions. On top of that, me and my sister are very close already, but even like more close. Like, we have understood each other fully, and like, you know, again, our likes and dislikes, our wants and needs, and how we show up for each other. Not shrinking myself for the hope and desire that maybe one day I'll meet a man who will like the presentation of what he's seeing. For me now, I'm in a space where I've decentered men in my lived experiences, and not in a I hate men kind of way, but in a I'm not allowing the desire for partnership or a man to determine what I choose to do and how I choose to live my life, where I choose to live, how I choose to show up in the world, like what I choose to put on my body, how I choose to speak. Any of those things I do choose to do is because I want to do it. I like the way it makes me feel, or these are values and morals that I personally uphold. Not because I could potentially get a man quicker, easier, faster that way. No, it's just because I am choosing this for my own self. And I even say that like even deeper for Christian women. I think that a lot of times we try to kind of like twist God a little bit. Like, we think that we can kind of like twist God's arm, and it's just like, he's God. You can't do that for sure. We're like, you know, let me do this thing so God can see that I'm being this person, and that because I'm being this person that he will send along my man. I say all this because I had that same thought too. I used to be in that same mindset where I thought, you know, let me be this way. Let me be this holier than art thou. And God will send me my husband. Yeah. Disappointment. And so now I'm in a space where I'm willingly choosing to deepen my relationship with Jesus Christ and deepen my relationship and my faith with God because I want to do it. Not because I feel like it'll get me closer to getting a man. It's just because I feel like it's necessary for my own livelihood. If a man comes on the way through this journey of mine, okay, bet. But I know that I've made these decisions for me. I don't want to live my life making decisions on the end of I've reached the final level of life and I've gotten married and I have kids. That's the final boss level. I've completed the game. That's it. It's a wrap. We're done. I don't want to live my life like that. I've been radically honest with myself. Even if there are moments where I feel a little like twinge, like I'm going to feel it. Like it's not like I'm here just being like, yeah, woo. I'm not thinking about that at all. No, I think about it, but it's not impacting me in a way that it used to impact me. Now I can think about it and be like, okay, and then push it aside and move forward. And that's what I want. I want to address it, acknowledge it, but not let it control how I move through my life. There are so many other things that I have to think about. Allowing myself to acknowledge my feelings, even if I feel a little slighted, even if I feel a twinge of like longing, even if I feel like, oh God, why not me? Okay, I feel those things, but I don't let those things control how I move or how I show up. I can rest assured knowing that I live my life to the best of my ability, doing the things that I wanted to do and not shrinking myself or hoping that a man came along the way to whisk me off my feet. Even though if a man wants to do that, I'm not gonna stop you. Hopefully that's encouraging to you. And yeah, we move. It's not the end of the world, y'all. I promise you, it is not the end of the world. We're gonna be okay.